Imagine standing in a line that never seems to end, not at the grocery store or the bank, but in the quiet corridors of your own mind. You're waiting for something, a breakthrough, a change, a moment of clarity. But the line doesn't move, and you're left wondering if you'll ever reach the front. Did you know that the average person will spend over 5 years of their life waiting in lines? That's 5 years standing still, staring at the back of someone's head, wondering if the universe is testing your patience. But here's the kicker. The most important line you'll ever wait in isn't at the DMV. It's the one inside your own mind. Have you ever felt stuck between two chapters of your life? Like you're not quite where you were, but not yet where you're going? These are the liminal spaces, the thresholds of the soul, where time seems to stretch and bend. They're the psychological equivalent, standing in line, waiting for your turn to step into the next version of yourself. Maybe it was after a breakup, when you were no longer part of a couple, but not quite ready to move on. Or perhaps during a career shift, when you'd left one path behind, but hadn't yet found the next. These moments ache with discomfort, yet they shimmer with possibility. What if I told you that this uncomfortable in-between is where the real magic happens? Carl Jung, the pioneer of depth psychology, saw these liminal zones as sacred ground, places where the conscious and unconscious collide, forging something new. It's here, in the tension of not knowing, that we meet our shadows, wrestle with our fears, and uncover hidden strengths. These aren't just empty waiting rooms. They're the crucibles of transformation. So, as we begin this journey together, I invite you to pause. Think about your own liminal spaces. What are you waiting for? And more importantly, what might be waiting for you, deep within, while you stand in that line? Let's step into the unknown together and see what we find. Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a hallway between two doors? One closed behind you, the other not yet open. That strange suspended moment where you're neither here nor there, caught in a quiet unease. It's as if time slows down and you're left wondering, will I ever move forward? Today, we're diving into something called liminal spaces in psychology. These are the transitional phases of life, those mental no man's lands where you're no longer anchored in the past. But the future hasn't quite taken shape. Picture the twilight zone of your mind, a shadowy, in-between place where the old rules fade and new ones haven't yet emerged. It's unsettling, sure, but it's also brimming with possibility. Let's make this real. Think about the weeks after a breakup. The raw sting of heartbreak has softened, but you're not ready to step back into the world of dating. You're adrift, no longer the person you were with them, but not yet the person you'll become alone. Or imagine that awkward stretch after leaving a job. You've walked away from the comfort of routine, the steady paycheck. But what's next? A new career? A wild dream still feels like a blurry horizon. These moments don't just feel weird. They're secretly sculpting you. Carl Jung, one of the giants of psychology, saw these liminal spaces as sacred ground. He believed they're where we meet the shadow, those hidden corners of ourselves we've buried or ignored. It's in this discomfort, this not knowing, that we wrestle with who we are and who we might be. Think of it like a caterpillar inside its cocoon. The old self dissolves, messy and unglamorous, while the new self, a butterfly, quietly takes form. Transformation doesn't happen in the light of certainty. It brews in the dark of the in-between. So, here's the quiet truth. These liminal spaces, the ones we often dread, are where life cracks open. They're not voids to escape. They're canvases to dream on. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." These thresholds, as unnerving as they feel, are where that becoming begins. So, if you're there now, linger a little. Something extraordinary might be waiting. Have you ever stood at the edge of a life-altering decision, feeling the ground beneath you tremble? Meet Sarah. At 32, she made a choice that haunts the dreams of so many. She walked away from a cushy corporate job, a steady paycheck, the kind of life that promises safety but whispers monotony. Her dream? To become an artist. The day she quit, she felt free, unshackled, like a bird slipping through the bars of its cage. But the next morning, the silence hit. No meetings to scramble toward, no emails pinging for her attention. Just her, a blank canvas, and a vast, uncharted void. Imagine Sarah as a caterpillar tucked inside its cocoon. She's no longer the worker bee, buzzing tirelessly through the corporate hive. But she's not yet the butterfly she longs to become. She's suspended in a liminal space, a psychological no man's land where the old self dissolves and the new self hasn't fully taken shape. It's a place of transformation, wrapped in the quiet tension of possibility and doubt. So, what would you do in Sarah's shoes? Would you leap into the unknown, trusting that your wings will catch you before you fall? Or would you cling to the safety of what you know, even if it means staying small, cocooned forever in the familiar? For Sarah, that in-between space was a battlefield of the mind. The cocoon didn't feel like a sanctuary. It felt like a prison she'd built with her own hands. She wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. The blank canvas stared back at her, a stark mirror reflecting her deepest fears. What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? The silence that once sang of freedom now rang with self-doubt, a chorus of inner critics she couldn't silence. But then, a shift. Sarah picked up a brush, dipped it in paint, and made her first stroke. It was messy, imperfect, but it was hers. In that moment, she wasn't just painting a picture, she was painting her future. The cocoon cracked, and a flicker of the butterfly emerged. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Sarah's leap into the unknown is her individuation, a journey through the psyche's shadows toward the self she was always meant to be. Have you ever found yourself in a place where the familiar has faded, but the future remains shrouded in mist? A space where the rules you've lived by no longer seem to apply, and the path ahead is unclear. This is the essence of liminality, a term coined by anthropologist Victor Turner to describe those transitional phases in life where we stand on the threshold between what was and what will be. Picture this liminal space as the twilight zone of your mind, a foggy, eerie landscape where shadows dance and whispers echo. It's a place of vulnerability, where the ground beneath your feet feels unsteady, and the air is thick with uncertainty. Yet within this haze, there's a strange sense of openness, a canvas wiped clean, ready for new strokes of possibility. In this twilight zone, we often find ourselves wrestling with doubt and fear. The old certainties have crumbled, and the new ones have yet to take shape. It's a battleground of the psyche, where our inner demons, those nagging voices of self-doubt and anxiety, rise to the surface, challenging us to confront them head-on. But here's the paradox. Psychologists tell us that it's precisely in these liminal spaces that we're most capable of rewriting our story. When the old structures fall away, we're free to question, to explore, to imagine new ways of being. It's a crucible of transformation where the heat of uncertainty forges resilience and creativity. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the journey toward becoming our true selves. Liminal spaces, with their inherent discomfort, can be catalysts for this process. They force us to shed outdated identities and embrace the unknown, allowing us to emerge more authentic and whole. So, the next time you find yourself in a liminal space, whether it's after a major life change, a loss, or simply a moment of profound uncertainty, remember this: it's not just a waiting room between chapters of your life. It's a sacred ground for growth, a place where you can confront your fears, embrace your vulnerabilities, and ultimately redefine who you are. Embrace the fog, for within it lies the seed of your next great becoming. What would it take for you to let go of everything you think defines you? Imagine this: you're driving home, the road blurring beneath you, your mind tangled in the day's chaos. Then in a heartbeat, it all stops. A screech of tires, a flash of light, and the world tilts. For John, a 38-year-old executive, that moment came one rainy night. A car accident left him inches from death. He survived, but the man he'd been, work-obsessed, stressed, always chasing the next deadline, didn't. In that near miss, something broke open, and his old self began to slip away. In Jungian psychology, this is called ego death. It's not just a dramatic phrase, it's a profound unraveling. Picture the ego as the mask you wear, the version of yourself you've built to fit the world's demands. For John, that mask was his title, his corner office, his relentless hustle. But ego death, as Carl Jung saw it, is a cornerstone of individuation, the journey to uncover your truest self. It's when the old you, the one tied to superficial roles, has to die so the real you can step forward. When the accident stripped John bare, he couldn't hide behind his armor anymore. So, who are you when the titles and routines are gone? That's the question John faced in the wreckage of his old life. Before, he'd been a machine, fueled by ambition, ignoring the quiet ache of something missing. But in the stillness of recovery, that ache grew louder. His near-death moment was a mirror, forcing him to see beyond the executive, the achiever. Slowly, he began to explore what lay beneath, painting again after years, reconnecting with friends, listening to a voice he'd silenced. It was as if his life had been a fragile shell, and the crash cracked it open, revealing a deeper, more authentic core. Ego death isn't just destruction, it's rebirth. It's raw, messy, and often terrifying, but it clears the way for something real. Jung believed these shattering moments, dark nights of the soul, are how we grow into ourselves. For John, that accident wasn't just a close call. It was a call to wake up, to rebuild on a foundation truer than before. And in that painful letting go, he found a freedom he'd never known, a chance to live as the man he was always meant to be. Have you ever felt like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, the past a solid ground behind you, the future a misty void ahead? That feeling of being suspended, not quite here nor there, is what we call a liminal space. It's a threshold, a transitional phase where the old has faded and the new hasn't yet taken shape. Think of it like a cocoon, neither caterpillar nor butterfly, but something restless, shifting, alive with potential. So, how do you survive these in-betweens? Treat yourself like an explorer in uncharted territory. There's no map, no compass handed down from the life you left behind. Just your grit, your curiosity, and the faint pulse of your own intuition. Carl Jung might call this a step toward individuation, the slow, uncertain journey to your truest self. Explorers don't fear the fog. They lean into it, learning its contours. In liminal spaces, you do the same. You feel your way forward, trusting that each stumble is a lesson. How do you keep going when the ground feels unsteady? First, embrace the uncertainty. It's not a chasm. It's a blank page, waiting for you to write the next line. Second, talk to a friend. Gabor Mate reminds us that connection heals. A shared story can light the dark. Sometimes, a voice outside your head reveals what's been whispering within. Third, be kind to yourself when it feels messy. Transitions bruise the soul. Self-compassion is the balm. Here's the secret. Liminal spaces aren't just gaps to endure. They're fertile soil for growth if you're brave enough to plant something. Picture a garden in early spring. Barren, yes, but rich with possibility. You have to dig in, sow seeds of hope, even when the harvest feels far off. These thresholds aren't pauses. They're where the psyche stretches, where the next chapter takes root. So, next time you're caught in that in-between, ask yourself, what will I plant here? Because this isn't just survival. It's where you begin to become. Have you ever stood at the edge of a cliff? The wind of change howling around you. The ground beneath your feet crumbling away. That moment when you're caught between two worlds. The past slipping through your fingers. The future, a faint shimmer on the horizon. These are the liminal spaces of life, the thresholds we cross to uncover who we're truly meant to be. Here's the truth. Liminal spaces strip away the masks we wear and force us to face who we really are. Like a snake shedding its worn-out skin, we must release the old to embrace the new. It's raw, it's uncomfortable, but it's in this unraveling that we find our power. These in-between moments, neither here nor there, are where we rewrite our story, where we step into the role of creator rather than passenger. Carl Jung, the sage of the psyche, once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." He called this individuation, a journey to weave together the scattered threads of our being, light and shadow, into a whole self. Liminal spaces are the forge of that transformation, the fire that tempers us. They're not just gaps to endure, they're the molten heart of change. Picture a phoenix. To rise anew, it must first burn. The flames consume the old, the ashes mark the end, and from that ruin, something radiant emerges. That's you in a liminal space. The heat may sting, destruction may ache, but it's sculpting a stronger, truer version of yourself. So, when you next find yourself in that threshold, don't recoil. It's not a void to fear, but a crucible of creation. Lean into the blaze, let the old you burn away, and trust that from the ashes you'll rise like a phoenix, reborn, authentic, and whole. Imagine Sarah, poised before a blank canvas, the hum of her corporate life dissolving into silence. Or John, gazing into the void after his brush with death, the fragments of his former self slipping through his fingers. These aren't just stories of change. They're windows into the raw, transformative power of liminal spaces. Those thresholds where we hover, suspended between who we were and who we might become. Here, in this murky in-between, we're challenged to let go, to unravel, to grow. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey toward our truest self. He believed these liminal moments steeped in discomfort and ambiguity, are where the psyche forges its deepest evolution. Like a caterpillar in its chrysalis, we dissolve before we take flight. Sarah's leap into art, John's reckoning with mortality, they're echoes of this ancient truth. Transformation demands a surrender. So, what about you? What liminal spaces have you crossed? Maybe a career shift that left you untethered, the ground beneath you shifting like sand. Or the quiet ache of a lost relationship, forcing you to redraw the map of your identity. What did those moments whisper to your soul? Did they peel back the layers, revealing a strength you didn't know you had? Pause with me now. What transition are you navigating in this very moment? It might feel like a fog has settled over your life, disorienting, heavy. But here's the secret. Fog doesn't last forever. It lifts, and when it does, the horizon comes into view. What could this liminal space be shaping you into? What new version of yourself is quietly taking root, waiting to break through the soil of your uncertainty? This is your chrysalis. What wings are you building toward? What happens when you stand at the edge of a moment, when the echoes of what you've just seen ripple through the quiet corners of your mind? That's where we are now, teetering on a threshold, a liminal space between the story we've shared and the one you're about to tell. In Jungian terms, this is the moment of individuation, where the self begins to stir, urging you to step forward, to integrate what you've felt into something tangible, something real. So, if this journey through the strange, in-between places of the psyche struck a chord, let us know. Hit that like button. It's not just a click, it's a signal, a quiet nod that says, I was here, I felt that. Your support keeps this exploration alive, week after week, as we dive deeper into the labyrinth of the human mind. And if you're ready to walk this path with us, to uncover more shadows and archetypes lurking beneath the surface, subscribe. We're only just beginning, but it doesn't end there. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." That's what this space can be. Crucible for transformation. So I'm asking you to step into it. Down in the comments, tell us, what liminal space have you lived through? Was it a career shift that left you dangling between who you were and who you might become? A breakup that felt like a house half empty, its rooms whispering memories you couldn't quite let go? Or maybe a single fleeting moment when the world tilted and you stood there, uncertain, yet alive with possibility. Whatever it was, share it. Not just for us, but for you. Because when we voice our thresholds, we begin to map them. We light the way for each other. Your story isn't just a comment. It's a thread in a vast woven tapestry of human experience, a living archive of the psyche's quiet revolutions. Think of it like the anima or animus, those inner voices Jung described, calling us to connect, to bridge the unconscious with the world. So pause, reflect. What did this video stir in you? What shadow flickered across your mind? What question lingered? Drop it below. Let's build something together. A community not of strangers, but of travelers, each carrying a lantern through the in-between.